If you want to dominate your games in World of Tanks, you may not want to look anywhere else other than the Super Conqueror, and that's because this tank can be superior with its use of its turret armor, along with the actual layout of the vehicle, the gun statistics, and just generally being a top tier Tier 10 heavy tank. And of course you can see with the statistics of the vehicle, not only do you get perfect accuracy for a heavy tank, but you also get brilliant damage per minute, you get a decent top speed for a heavy, you get decent health, and you can also have a brilliant game within this. So let's jump into the replay now and showcase why this tank is so superior. So the first replay that we have is showing off Ghost in the Fog playing an aggressive tank in an aggressive way, playing up against tanks on ridge lines, and of course showing how superior the Super Conqueror can be in today's meta. And of course using the turret armor of this vehicle, albeit there is the turret ring weak point just underneath the actual turret itself, which can be penned, along with these side areas here, and of course on the opposite side, which can be penned as well. And you can be penned in the engine deck if you do offer up the vehicle's side. You can be penned from the kind of front if you're angling the frontal hull armor. Now, one thing that you'll see here is nice use of the turret armor straight away, managing to bounce one round off of the FE215B, which is the other British heavy tank. Granted, this, if you've seen the recent video on the FE215B, you know that that vehicle is actually rated the worst vehicle at tier 10, and as the name implies in that video, it is of course the tinderbox, and in doing so gets set on fire and enables our player here, Ghost in the Fog, to pick up nearly 1800 damage. So this vehicle is utilising all of the bonuses that you'll see available within World of Tanks, with both bounty equipment that include the hardening that allows you to gain not only more hit points but also have increases to your kind of track repair speed and stuff like that. And it also has the bonuses for vents, which allow you to get slightly better statistics in general within this vehicle, allowing you to have slightly better accuracy. And there's also a bounty rammer as well, which allows you to just improve your damage per minute, which allows this sort of thing to happen up against an obviously good VZ55 player who doesn't quite manage to get away with a decent result in this game. But that's because this video is going to be showcasing the Super Conqueror, not the VZ55. So we're going to see how aggressive this tank can be, and I really enjoyed watching this. And you can see here, now advancing probably maybe a little bit too aggressively into unknown forces that are, of course, including the tier 8 French heavy tank, the AMX-65T, and he of course doesn't really have turret armor, especially against the APCR rounds of the Super Conqueror, and is quickly shut down as you'd expect. But what else can be done within this replay? Well, using the good dispersion values and moving the turret quickly enough, the Leopard PTA is going to be hopefully taken out, but unfortunately the E4 steals the glory. And I guess the key thing about the Super Conqueror, you can see with 2,700 hit points, is nearly similar to that of the Maus. I mean, granted, you know, you suffer in terms of having the base value of hit points that the Maus has, but remember, you have the more consistent gun than the Maus, so, you know, weigh it up. And of course, you're much faster to be able to get into position, and probably more effective armor when you can get this thing hold down. So that's kind of where I feel that this tank excels over typical traditional super heavy vehicles that you might see within the game. Type 4 heavies, Type 5 heavies, everything like that. But one thing that you don't kind of underestimate with this vehicle is the power of the main armament and being able to pick up damage, because already you've seen 3,800 damage done with over 1,600 assistance. So a really nice game to begin with, without even going into the details of how this game is going to end up. Because remember, when you have this capability in a matchup, which is quite well suited considering that there were only 3 tier 10s on each team, and the majority of tanks you're going to be fighting really definitely don't have a chance at penning the turret, then yeah, this tank is very, very good. One tank that you don't want to get hit by is a Jaegeru, and there is of course one that was last spotted over in this location over here. Now, whether he's still there, I expect he isn't, but either way, the Jaegeru could pop up at any point along this ridgeline, so making sure you get down into this dip as quickly as possible and without getting spotted is ideal. And so he quickly moves down here, and now it's the case of finding himself in a position where maybe he can use the turret armor. So with the Super Conqueror pushed into this position, the 703-2 is probably not in a great position, considering he can get hit in the back from the Super Conqueror, and there's no real disadvantage to moving up here. Now, the 703-2 does actually manage to pen, but that was probably on the side of the turret, and of course that was the case. But now looking down into the IS, or he does manage to actually hit the top of the roof, or the 703 I should say, and unfortunately for him, he does have to overexpose himself to really deal damage to the Super Conqueror, and that's kind of a problem, because either way he looks, it's not going to be good. Now the Skoda T50 does hit him in the side, hitting the tracks, and maybe this isn't the best idea that you could have gone with, and maybe coming round to this position and duking it out might have been better, but either way, he's now pretty much a one-shot for a lot of vehicles on the enemy team. If they've got anywhere near 490 alpha damage, it is well within the realms of being one-shot, so definitely don't want to get hit by a Jaeger now, and when you've lost all of this hit points, bearing in mind you've done 5,700 damage, you want to try and maintain that last level of hit points that you have to hopefully secure the win against vehicles like the Jaeger. Now granted, the Jaeger, if he does hit the top of the Super Conqueror, could quite easily go through it, but he's got to hit it, and that's the real problem, because with the heat shield that this tank gets, it can be difficult to actually hit. And when you have the ridge lines in the way, it's even more difficult, and with the Jaeger being pretty inflexible as it is, being a non-turreted tank destroyer, it's probably not going to go all too well. So 7,000 damage done combined, that is not a bad result at all. And he manages to find the M46 pattern, I believe, on the enemy team, or M48, but I believe that that's the tier 8 version of the tank, and he plows around into him quite easily. So with that being said, it's the 59 pattern even, but the tank in this sort of position, you've got to think about where the enemy teams are going to get up to, because if you overexpose yourself in this area, the Scorpion G that's up here could potentially get a shot, as well as the fact that they could crawl up from behind you in the CC and take a shell into the backside of you. You know, you've got to think about these things when playing in tanks like this that rely upon the turret armor, and placing yourself in the best position where you can use that turret armor is of course going to yield the best results. And it's shots like this with the accuracy and the aim time and being able to be that consistent that are going to let you come away with the results that you're hoping for. And unfortunately for the Scorpion G, it's going to be a pretty lucky shot if he hits the cupola, and you see him actually raise towards the Scorpion G, allowing that where he was aiming before, which may have been the cupola, to actually rise up so that he's then going to hit the actual frontal turret armor of this tank. Now whether that was intentional or just a fluke, I'm not entirely sure, but I guess that given the fact that he's picked up 7,000 damage, you'd hope that it's actually decent damage. But a auto aim towards the EOC, surprised that actually hit, but nonetheless an easy one, and he finishes him down with the second shot, picking up 8,000 damage and 10,000 combined damage. So I mean, it's going the way that you want it to in a tank like this, and I love seeing results like this. Now the CS52 Liss on the enemy team pops up to the right, and he shuts him down pretty quickly. The one tank that you don't want to see, however, is a Skoda T50, but luckily for him, the teammates on the hill obviously countering pretty hard against the Skoda, allowing him to not have to crest over the ridge, and he's backing down, feeling very inferior against the superior Super Conqueror. I'm sorry, I have to make that joke, but either way, you're seeing now the 59 pattern, who he's farmed earlier, is still on the same amount of hit points, and it's looking like he's wanting a little bit more of the 59 pattern. Maybe he's thinking the Chinese, he's thinking about getting some Chinese dinner, and of course he snacks on the hit points left of the 59 pattern, picking up one final shell, and then a lovely shell aimed and guided into the cupola of the 59 pattern finishes him off and secures over 9,000 damage. So at this point you're probably thinking, well, there's plenty of damage left on the enemy team with 3,400 hit points, and when you're thinking about trying to mop up as much damage as possible, you're probably after that Jaeger who's on full health. Maybe you could even get some assistance damage on him and crop up over that ridgeline. Remember that Scorpion G was over there, and unfortunately he doesn't actually manage to pen, or at least unfortunately for the Scorpion G, as it's now going to be the last shot he potentially takes. Luckily, he pulls back down that hill and avoids the shell entirely, but the Jaeger isn't going to be so lucky. 10,000 damage done. Scorpion G now looking at the Super Conqueror, doesn't manage to hit, and neither does the Super Conqueror on him. Now, the Scorpion G looks to be a decent player since he knows about the fact that this tank can be a bit of a pain, and you're seeing here now the Jaeger thinking, you know what, I'm sick of this Super Conqueror hitting me. He's just decided that it's time to YOLO, and you can see it's not looking too good for him, but luckily you're seeing the Super Conqueror track him, and oh no, the Jaeger's decided it's time to YOLO, and oh, he doesn't manage to get the YOLO satisfaction that he was after on the Super Conqueror, and with a brilliant shot into the tracks just before he was able to fully crest the ridge to be able to get a shot, you see the Jaeger get shut down. The Scorpion G that's been pestering him gets shut down quickly after as well, and now it's just a case of a BZ-176, which we all know about is just horrible to play up against, and of course he's cresting the ridgeline using the totally balanced gun depression and the alpha of the BZ to hold off the Super Conqueror. But there's just a CC on one shot and a BZ, so there's not much damage left in the game, and hopefully you can shut down the BZ for the final damaging hit of the game and securing the last kill. Maybe he'll be able to do it. It could be the Paul's medal. Disappointing, and not able to pick up the Paul's medal, but he was able to come away with a result that most players would be outstandingly happy about, picking up over 14,000 combined damage in the Super Conqueror, showcasing why this tank is just perfect. Let's jump back into the What Replay site to showcase what actually happened with the result, and then of course see a little bit of the weak points that you might want to know about if you want to stop a Super Conqueror from having this impact in your games. So here you go, this is the result, and what a result indeed. Mastery Badge, 5 for Effect, Spotter, Bruiser, Hand of God, Arsonist, Duelist, Radley, Walters, a Steel Wall, High Caliber and a Top Gun, and 10,000 XP earned with 32 bonds, 10,877 damage done, 9 kills, just 1 off that could have been the BZ to picking it up to a Paul's medal, but unfortunately not the case. 1,941 base experience, earning 125,000 silver after ammunition and equipment and consumables, which is amazing in itself in a tier 10 heavy. So yeah, really good result. Thank you very much Ghost in the Fog for uploading that to the What Replay site, and hopefully you've enjoyed this little rundown of the Super Conqueror and maybe why you want to actually pick up this thing because of its consistent gun, the armor and the mobility and all of the above that we've mentioned so far. Thank you, and I hope you join me in the next video and click subscribe to see more. Goodbye.